eyes on President Bongbong Marcos as he delivers his fourth State of the Nation address today.
While in the 20th Congress, the new leadership is taking shape, with Senate President Cheese Escudero remaining in charge of the upper house.
Good afternoon, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
And I'm Gerg Cahiles.
And this is Bilyonaryo News Channel special coverage of SONA 2025, the nation's agenda. Let's begin in the upper chamber. Senate President Cheese Escudero has secured support to continue leading in the 20th Congress. We now go to Hannah T for the latest live from the Senate. Hannah, what is the mood there and how did the Senate vote? We know the Senate presidency has been contested since Tito Sotto won in the midterm polls.
The morning session of the Senate has just been suspended. It was suspended and will resume later for the joint session at around 4 p.m. at the House of Representatives. And you're right, Mino, Senator Cheese Escudero will stay on as Senate President even amid allegations on massive budget insertions in the 2025 national budget. And in a 19-5 vote, Escudero retained Senate leadership despite questions surrounding over 142 billion pesos in alleged insertions under his watch. His home province of Sorsogon reportedly received one of the largest shares, second only to Bulacan, the bailiwick of Senator Joel Villanueva, who was elected Committee on Rules Chair and Majority Floor Leader. Meanwhile, Senator Jinggoy Estrada was retained as Senate President pro tempore, while former Senate President Tito Sotto now takes on the role of Minority Leader. During the session, Senator Mig Zubiri nominated Sotto for Senate President, praising his consistency and commitment to Senate traditions. But it was Escudero who won majority support, including from admin allies and even opposition senators Bam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan. Pangilinan clarified that his vote for Escudero should not be misread as administration alignment and called for respect in recognizing the minority, even requesting that Sotto be sworn in just like other Senate leaders. In an interview earlier, Senator Loren Legarda stressed that before talks on the 2026 National Expenditure Program, the Senate must first resolve questions on anomalies in the 2025 budget. And in his first remarks after being retained, Escudero told the chamber that disagreements should never be mistaken for dysfunction. He urged his colleagues to work through political noise and rise above resentment because, as he put it, we are all in the same boat. My Senate caucus is set for 1 p.m. tomorrow, and we are expecting that they will discuss the next steps on the impeachment case of Vice President Sara Duterte, including whether the Senate should still act on the Supreme Court ruling declaring the impeachment unconstitutional. Mai?
Hannah, what is the talk there on how they're going to move forward, especially with the budget insertion issue and one of the most contentious issues, of course, the impeachment of VP Sara? Senator Sotto has been a consistent critic of SP Cheese, frequently questioning many of his decisions, especially on the impeachment.
Definitely it's going to be a new set or a very interesting set of senators itong 20th Congress because even sa minority bloc, halo-halo rin yung stances nila because as we recall, Senator Tito Sotto said dapat galangin itong SC decision declaring the impeachment case unconstitutional, but Senator Risa Ontiveros earlier said na dapat ituloy pa rin itong impeachment trial ni VP Sara kahit meron ng SC decision. And when it comes to leadership naman, we've yet to find out because tama yung sinabi mo no na staunch critic itong si Sotto ng leadership ni Senate President Cheese Escudero, pero so far hindi pa natin siya nakakausap sa kung paano ba yung pamamalakad nila sa minority bloc moving forward now na na-retain itong si Sotto bilang Senate President. Mai?
Alright, itong si Senator Amy Marcos naman, she's not attending today's SONA. Tell us why, Hannah?
My Senator Amy Marcos says meron siyang pupuntahang set of schools this afternoon na for her ay hindi niya napuntahan because meron siyang mga previous na lakad nitong panahon ng habagat last week at she said to attend or go to those events na mamimigay umano ng mga goods or relief goods dito sa mga nabanggit niyang schools. Nung tanungin natin kung priority ba ito, mas priority ba ito kesa sa SONA, sinabi niya na mahalagang matutukan itong mga biktima ng masamang panahon. So, she'd rather attend and of course, she clarified naman na she will read the SONA of her brother na si PBBM and also isa rin sa mga nabanggit niya ay sina Senators Robin Padilla, Bongo, Bato de la Rosa ay hindi rin dadalo kasama niya. So apat sila sa Duterte block na hindi pupunta mamaya sa SONA ni PBBM and si Senator Rodante Marcoleta naman hindi pa raw sure kung siya ay dadalo. So 4 out of 5 sa Duterte block ay set na hindi na dumalo mamaya sa SONA. May?
Alright, maraming salamat. Hannah T. live from the Senate.
Senate President Francis Escudero made an unusual move during budget season, personally visiting the House of Representatives on Bonifacio Day, a national holiday, while bicameral talks on the 6.35 trillion peso 2025 budget were underway. A report on Politico.com shows security footage. Escudero heading to the office of Speaker Martin Romualdez just 2 days after BICAM deliberations began, an uncommon step for any Senate leader during this high-stakes, behind-closed-doors phase. Sources say Escudero took a lead role in the talks, sidelining Senate Finance Chair Grace Poe. The BICAM approved the final version on December 11. Escudero has since downplayed his 142.7 billion peso budget insertions, calling them a small share of the total, also noting that the House made its own changes. But records show his home province of Sorsogon received 9.1 billion pesos, the second largest allocation, next to Bulacan's 12 billion pesos, the home province of his ally, Senator Joel Villanueva.
Crime is down, the drug war is changing, and the seas are being guarded. But are Filipinos actually feeling safer? PBBM addressed all these in his last report to the nation. Francis Folve has this special report.
Peace and order was one of the key topics tackled in President Bongbong Marcos's recent State of the Nation address. In his report to the nation, the president said that crime rates have noticeably decreased. According to PNP data, the nationwide index crime volume went down by 22.37% from 18,358 cases in January 1 to June 13, 2024 to 14,251 during the same period this year. The 8th focus crime also decreased by 22.53% compared to the previous year. These focus crimes include physical injury, theft, robbery, carnapping of motor vehicles and motorcycles, rape, homicide, and murder. But does the public really feel they are safe? PNP Chief Police General Nicolas Torre III responded by committing to a 3-minute police response time to crimes. Because online scams are also increasing, the PNP has intensified its online presence and launched a police mobile app. However, Torres challenged to police officers to arrest as many criminals as possible received mixed reactions, including praise and criticism. The Commission on Human Rights reminded the PNP not to be trigger-happy and to ensure that every operation is conducted legally. On the war on drugs,
on the fight against dangerous drugs, our bloodless war on dangerous drugs adheres and will continue to adhere to the established 8 E's of an effective anti-illegal drug strategy. Extermination was never one of them.
Tokhang. Translated, tok hangyo nak and plead. This is a bold claim, I know, especially coming from someone in uniform. But I believe that Plan Tokhang, in its most basic concept, is flawed. Flawed in the sense that itself shows how misinformation can start inside our own house. Think about it. We go to someone's house, knock on the door, beg on suspected lawbreakers to stop. Yet, do we have the evidence? If we have the evidence, we have no business pleading on criminals. Our job is to bring a warrant, whether it is a search warrant or a warrant of arrest, and enforce the law, arrest the criminals, and haul them to jail. But if we don't have the evidence, doing so, we commit, at the very least, slander. We commit harassment. Essentially, we commit a criminal act. Think about it. That is the heart of misinformation. Acting or posting before the proof.
This is also connected to the arrest and turnover of former President Rodrigo Duterte to the ICC in The Hague, led by Torre, earlier this year. Last year, more than 44 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs were confiscated and over 90,000 drug personalities were apprehended. Drug-affected barangays also went down by 32%. According to the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, in the first quarter of 2025 alone, about 6.9 billion pesos worth of drugs have already been seized. But the fight continues, not just against drugs, but also against cybercrime, scammers, and the growing spread of misinformation. This is also tied to the fight in the West Philippine Sea. The President said,
Ang West Philippine Sea ay hindi katang-isip natin lamang. Ito ay atin. Ito ay At ito ay mananatiling atin hanggat nag-aalab ang diwa ng ating minamahal na bansang Pilipinas.
President Marcos also recognized the sacrifices of the Coast Guard, armed forces, and the Filipino fishermen within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. China says it is open to dialogue, but this runs counter to their aggressive and dangerous acts of bullying against Filipino troops by Chinese vessels. Still, the AFP supports any diplomatic move of the government in the area.
The AFP and the defense establishment leadership has always been very supportive of dialogue and talking things over. However, dialogue must be based on mutual respect for international law. It must be based on trust, and it must be based on the integrity of the territory of both sides. If I may paraphrase our Secretary of National Defense, the Chinese Communist Party has a lot of trust building to do when it comes to dialogue, especially on the West Philippine Sea.
One of the expected benefits of the Philippines hosting ASEAN next year is a new code of conduct for the South China Sea. Modernization of the armed forces also continues, as well as the efforts to intensify alliances with countries that share the same stand on the rule of law. Francis Polbe, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
With so much to unpack in today's events, we are getting help in untangling what's happening so far, as well as what to expect during President Bongbong Marcos' State of the Nation address later this afternoon.
Joining us in the studio, we have political analyst Professor Froilan Calilong and international law expert Ivcar Cruz Ferrer. Good afternoon to both of you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, good afternoon.
All right, let's start with Professor Froilan. What would you say is the overall political mood heading into SONA 2025? Of course, ang importante dito, maramdaman ng lahat ng Pilipino yung promised economic progress, pero maraming kontrobersiya ang nadaanan natin in the weeks before the SONA.
Yeah, actually, if you go back to the previous SONA, he mentioned already that the state of the nation is sound. if we could recall. And then last year, he made mention that dumating na ang bagong Pilipinas. But I think for the past 2 years, masyadong nalubog tayo no, sa political noise. And I think yung governance medyo na-derail ng bahagya. No? So there are a lot of, I believe there are a lot of policies and programs that are still yet to be fully realized. For example, the BBM, the Build More program, though they have, I think, around 207 major infrastructures in the pipeline, I think only 43 of them have been completed so far. And we are now already at the midway of the Marcos administration. So I believe there are a lot of things to be done. You know, the flood control project, I think, is something that many people will be willing and wanting to listen to what really happened to the trillion of budget here for the flood control, for disaster resiliency. And then we also would like to see what will be the surprise of the president. You remember last year, it was the Pogo, the ban on Pogo, which became the highlight of his speech. Right now, I hope that he will put a prohibition or at least a complete halt to the online gambling.
Yan naman ang inaabangan ngayon.
Sana.
Alright, but of course, pinag-uusapan na rin naman natin yung mga na-fulfill na promises, hindi na-fulfill na promises. What do you think, apart from yung sinasabi nga natin sa flood control and infrastructure projects, ano pa ba yung mga dapat na bantayan ng taong bayan in terms of, fulfilling the promises during the past SONA?
Well, for one, siguro tignan natin yung Maharlika Investment Fund, no? The sovereign fund, which I think was given to us with a lot of promises. I think so far, parang isa pa lang yata yung kanilang nagagawa ngayon na hakbang no, with regards to the National Power Grid Corporation. So, maraming kailangan tuunan ng pansin, ano? The education sector, the health, yung ating PhilHealth problem, PhilHealth issue, it's there. Of course, yung ating mga OFWs, often neglected, no? Hindi nabibigyan ng karampatang atensyon yung ating OFWs despite the fact that they are the major revenue drivers for the country and they really are the backbone of the economy. So I think kailangan tignan din natin yon, ano, pagtuunan ng pansin. And of course, yung problema natin regarding the issue on criminality, drug problem, nandiyan naman talaga yan. Pero ang mas maganda pagtuunan ng pansin dito talaga yung mga socio-economic imperatives, how to combat inflation, how we could have a legislated wage hike, that will somehow cushion the impact or the effect of inflation. So,
But Prof, he started with this SONA 2024 with that
Yeah.
Sinabi niya, para saan pa yung mga economic changes kung hindi naman nararamdaman ng taong bayan.
Yeah.
But is he fulfilling that, can we say, a promise?
Well, that's the problem because for this economic promises to really have an ultimate effect, dapat yung trickling down effect yan mararamdaman nung nandun sa laylayan. Kung ang nakakaramdam lang nito ay mga nandun lamang sa taas hanggang doon na sa middle area, mukhang hindi talaga lumalapag. Ano? So I think it's imperative na gumawa tayo ng mga mekanismo para sana mabigyan or mapagtuunan ng pansin kung paano magkakaroon ng sapat na livelihood. And this is one of the reasons why I'm really against online gambling because nagiging get-rich-easy quick scheme siya, no? At the same time, yung ating yung na-transform nila ang Pilipinas into an ayuda republic to an ayuda nation is another thing. No? Siguro mas maganda pagtuunan natin yung mga sustainable livelihood programs or projects or policies na merong long-lasting effect, no? Rather than giving people doleouts.
So dapat ngayon, action na ang hinahanap ng mga tao, especially since it's the last 3 years of PBBM.
Especially because heading into the 5th year, he will already enter the lame duck phase. No? So this particular year is very crucial. I believe dapat itong taon na to, we are not taking off Dapat nasa cruising phase na tayo No? Pero ang hirap kung medyo naantala tayo because of the impeachment, the ICC, yung political bickering nila with the Vice President. Kung yun ang medyo naging focus at sentro ng attention natin over the past 2 years, talagang maraming programa ang medyo na set aside. And true enough, this is what we're having right now.
Let's go first to Attorney Cruz Ferrer. There's been growing attention on the position of the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. What should be the approach when it comes to foreign policy?
Okay, I think the government is taking a good stance when it comes to the West Philippine issue. If we're going to compare it with I dare say, the previous administration, there is now this very vocal statement that it's ours, and we're going to really fight for our right in the West Philippine Sea. Now, I think it's also good that the government has been active in soliciting the support of other states. And a number of states have already expressed their support for the arbitral ruling. Yun yung mahalaga dito eh. That because on our own, it would be very difficult. But once you start soliciting support from other states for the 2016 arbitral ruling, it will gain more foothold in the international community.
Yeah.
Now, I think what needs to be addressed really is yung information for the general public. I think kulang pa eh. Like, we have not promoted understanding enough. Over the past few years, there has been intensification of the information drive for the general public. I think a comics was released
Yes.
in Filipino, in English, targeting really the young readers. That's good. But what about the different sectors and different levels of education, as well as the general public?
You know, in Japan, di ba may mga ads na lumalabas sa mga train nila, claiming na this territory is ours. So ibig sabihin, we don't have that yet.
Yes, because Filipinos spend a lot of time in social media. We're one of like the top in the world in terms of social media use. Parang
Hindi
ay-
na na-maximize yun.
Totoo, hindi pa na-maximize ng gobyerno yung efforts to really promote the understanding of the West Philippine Sea issue sa general public. Sayang yung opportunity eh. We're still not there. And mas mabilis, like if you see the way China has been really intensifying its
Propaganda kung propaganda.
you use the term. We're not even halfway. Like, we've not really utilized government resources and involvement ng private sector in promoting understanding. And this is going to be a challenge for the government.
Attorney, in the SONA later, do you expect the president to touch on international partnerships or security concerns?
Yes, definitely. Because with the recent visit of the president to Washington, it's going to be a key. I mean, it would be nice to know what transpired during that discussion, how it will impact yung defense posture ng Philippines, what would be the tangible and practical outcomes for the defense ng Pilipinas.
Pero recently kasi we're focused on the tariffs, ano po, yung 19% and tariff-free ng products from the United States. But beyond economics po, do you agree that itong agreement na ito ay may kinalaman din yung defense at yung West Philippine Sea?
I mean, the discussions
Yes, the
with,
discussions with the United
definitely.
States.
I've read a number of articles already from the recent visit of the president to Washington, and defense was definitely discussed. Now, what would be interesting is what kind of commitment was given by the U.S., the tangible ones, because first, you support some mutual defense treaty, that's one. Now, when they've expressed support for it, in what ways are there specific tangible programs that has resulted from this?
Kasi lagi natin naririnig yung ironclad commitment, no? But as you said, what are the tangible commitments of the United States?
Exactly.
All right. But another thing po, ano, pinag-uusapan natin ito because sabi ni President, ini-invite na si President Trump dito sa Pilipinas as we host the ASEAN Summit next year. Let's talk about the Code of Conduct.
Okay, very interesting.
Is it possible that we'll be having a Code of Conduct in the South China Sea next year?
Okay. It's a wait and see phase. Why? Kasi 2018 pa, we started already negotiations for the Code of Conduct 2018. But up to now, we still don't have it. And the reason is because ang daming mga factors to consider for the Code of Conduct. It's not as simple as creating this code that will govern. First, China wants it inflexible, flexible in the sense that it's not legally binding. But ASEAN, the rest of ASEAN wants it legally binding because it's very difficult. If you have this code of conduct, pero wala siyang legal responsibilities, it doesn't create responsibilities, then wala lang siya. Like, it can easily be disregarded by parties. So, very crucial talaga.
And baka mag-hesitate din yung ibang ASEAN countries because President Trump will be present in case he attends, no? But it's just a curiosity, Mike.
So much more to talk about, but we have to take a short break. Up next, we'll get updates on the ongoing protest in some parts of Quezon City. That and more when Newsfeed at noon and the continuing SONA coverage returns. We are still on SONA 2025, the nation's agenda. Bilyonaryo News Channel's coverage of President Bongbong Marcos's fourth State of the Nation address today.
About myself voluntarily, without mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without mental reservation.
Securing the country's top leaders, that's the priority for the Philippine National Police ahead of the SONA. PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III personally makes the rounds at command centers. Andrea Salve is live at Commonwealth Avenue with more. Andrea, go ahead.
That's right. My PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III personally visited all of the agency's command centers ahead of President Bongbong.
All right, we'll go back to Andrea Salve from Commonwealth Avenue in a bit.
Now, Joash Malimban is also on the ground at Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City, where various groups are staging their protests. Joash, how is the situation there?
Commonwealth Avenue here in Quezon City. Progressive groups are now starting to march towards the St. Peter's Chapel in an effort to hold their demonstration as close as possible to where President Marcos will deliver his fourth State of the Nation address. Apart from calls for genuine agrarian reform, livable wages, and condemnation of social injustices in the country, protesters are also expressing strong dissent against the Supreme Court's ruling declaring the impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte unconstitutional. Later today, they will hold a program they call the People's SONA, where they will present what they believe is the true state of the nation. Earlier this morning, tension rose between police officers and protesters. But aside from the extinguishing of the burning effigy earlier this morning, no intense physical clashes have been reported so far. The People's SONA is expected to end with the traditional burning of an effigy, a symbol of their condemnation of the current administration. Just to add, Gerg, notedly, the Justice for Missing Sabongeros Network also joined today's series of protests as they call for the President's attention in giving justice to their missing family members. According to the families we interviewed today, they are calling to PBBM to thoroughly investigate this matter and to include them in today's nation's agenda. Gerg.
All right, thank you at mag-ingat kayo dyan. Joash Malimban from Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City.
Let's go back to our discussion. We still have with us our guests today, political analyst Professor Froilan Calilong and international law expert attorney Ivcar Cruz Ferrer. Now, Professor Calilong, let's go back to what you said about PBBM becoming a lame duck president at this point of his term. He still has 3 years left. So may momentum pa rin ba siya, or are we seeing this label stick?
Well, let me be very clear about this. Okay, I'm not saying that today or this time is already the lame duck phase of the presidency of President BBM. This will normally happen, or this normally happens once you enter the 5th year, going to the 6th year, of course, because all eyes and ears are already heading towards the next election. So I think at this point in time, he still has enough elbow room, enough leverage, I believe, to turn things around, to come up with a better performance. A lot of sectors are saying saying that his performance is a bit underwhelming, considering that he was voted by a majority of Filipinos who was, basically relying on him and egging on him to, be the spark that our country needs. But true enough, for the past 3 years, it's a bit underwhelming, to say the least. But I'm not closing any doors with him that he can still turn things around. After all, 3 years is still a long time. But then again, the 4th year is very crucial because, like I said, all the things that you have laid down in the first 2 years are supposed to be gathering traction. It's supposed to be having fruition at this point in time. But then again, if we are just in the process of planting the seeds of growth and development at this moment, I think it's going to be very hard to see that come the 6th year. So, as a leader, what I mean is that he needs to really, be more accountable. The statements that he gave us lately are not really very reassuring. Remember that he said that the floods that we're experiencing is a new normal, and it's as if we have to be very resilient and accept
Gaslighting ba yun, Prof?
Yeah, I mean, as a leader, we're counting on him to lead us and not ask us as to what to do, because he has the mandate, he has the resources, he has the people behind him.
But the recent survey showed that the trust rating went up, no?
Yeah.
By 10 points.
Yeah.
So you think he will be able to sustain this, or how will be sustain this momentum siguro?
Well, it will depend. I think what the people right now are really looking is, like I said, more of governance and less of politics. No? So if it's going to be dead focus on trying to come up with more meaningful policies and legislations that will really improve the lives of the people, I think this positive outcome for him may translate into bigger numbers or better numbers moving forward. But if his administration is going to be drowned in all this political noise, then I think it's going to be a bit problematic for him.
Many are calling for performance na instead of political messaging.
Yes.
Let's talk about the political opposition. Do you think it has found its footing at this point? Or is the super majority still shaping the national agenda?
Well, I believe right now the opposition is still, of course, the Dutertes, definitely. Then again, I think some sectors, especially from the Makabayan bloc, are also sometimes calling on some positive reforms on the part of the BBM administration. It's too early to say right now that there will be a lot of alliances that will be forming, but as we head into 2028, I think these alliances will become clearer. But at this point in time, I believe that it's still a competition between the two major family blocks, the Dutertes and the Marcoses.
Okay, well, Attorney, balikan lang natin yung visit ni Pangulo sa US just last week. And sa tingin mo ba, some are saying that yung asymmetry sa trade terms na nakuha natin doon, do you think may epekto yan sa diplomatic or any other relations natin sa Estados Unidos?
Actually, I mean, the Philippines wasn't like in a bad position after the visit of the president sa Washington. In fact, I've read certain analysis na yung 19% actually covers only like about 31% of the products that the Philippines actually exports. So yung impact niya for the country is not as significant if we're going to compare it dun sa bigger picture. And then yung surplus din, diba, trade surplus, mas malaki pa rin ang kinukuha ng US from the Philippines as compared to us.
But what do you think, yung siguro concrete impact nito, ano yung makikita natin? Kasi yung tariff-free, sinasabi sa automobile, some weight, and pharmaceuticals. Sa tingin mo ba wala naman tayong automobile industry dito na dito ginagawa, or maybe meron pa rin pero Japan. But how about in the agriculture aspect at saka sa pharmaceutical?
Actually, yun ang medyo tatamaan eh. According to a number of analysis made, ang tatamaan talaga would be the sector, like yung mga fruits and vegetables ng Philippines, leather goods, and like footwear. Yan yung medyo tatamaan nung tariff with na inimpose ng US, the 19% tariff.
And also, Attorney, we're hosting the ASEAN next year. Ano yung mga gusto mong makita in terms of clear goals and programs?
That is actually interesting. 2026 is a big year for the Philippines dahil chair tayo ng ASEAN. Now, the primary goal here is really to come up with a code of conduct. So as we were discussing earlier, maraming factors to consider but having that code of conduct that is legally binding, yun sana ang maging primary goal natin. It's now a question whether China will agree to a legally binding code of conduct. Because if we don't have that code of conduct, yung escalation, it's really easy to escalate the situation sa West Philippine Sea. Now, the Code of Conduct will serve as a vehicle or an opportunity to really ensure that the actions are within the agreed terms and hindi siya mag-escalate to a full-blown armed conflict among the parties concerned.
Well, what should we do para ma-convince in China to agree with a code of conduct sa South China Sea?
Nako, your guess is as good as mine. I'm sure, a number of analysts have tried to really understand yung perspective ng China when it comes to the West Philippine Sea issue. But if you look at the way China looks at the West Philippine issue, they see it as a domestic issue because they consider this part of the waters as their territory. Parang law enforcement ang tingin ng China sa West Philippine Sea issue. Whereas the Philippines and the rest of the countries see this as an international law issue. It's about the implementation of UNCLOS or the law of the sea. And we are insisting on that. And it's good talaga that the Philippines, as I've mentioned earlier, has really been very vocal and strong in gathering support from other states to support the arbitral ruling.
All right, we're reaching the final stretch of our special SONA coverage, but we have to take a breather. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching Bilyonaryo News Channel special coverage of President Bongbong Marcos's fourth State of the Nation address today. Let's go back to Andrea Salve, live from Commonwealth Avenue with the police force ready to secure the country's top leaders ahead of the SONA later. Andrea, go ahead.
My PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III personally visited all of the agency's command centers ahead of President Bongbong Marcos's fourth State of the Nation address.
Dito tayo para panatilihin ang peace and order at mag-exercise ng maximum tolerance. SONA ay para sa ating bayan, para sa ating lahat.
This was General Torres' reminder to personnel stationed outside the Shrine of Leaders at St. Peter's Parish, his first stop during a series of inspections across command posts along Commonwealth Avenue and IBP Road. These units are tasked with securing the Batasang Pambansa from potential disruptions. More than 23,000 uniformed personnel have been deployed today. 16,000 came from the National Capital Region Police Office, while another 6,000 were assigned from various law enforcement agencies to ensure a safe and orderly SONA. When asked about the possibility of filing charges against protesters planning to burn effigies, General Torre responded.
Saka natin pag-isipan yan. Tapusin na muna natin lahat ng ito. As long as walang nasasaktan, walang major disruption sa activity na ito, okay lang yan.
The PNP chief says they trust that progressive groups expected to mobilize today understand the laws governing public assemblies. While the PNP remains hopeful for a peaceful day, they are fully prepared should the situation escalate. Meanwhile, outside the Sandigan Bayan, where pro-administration supporters are gathered, the atmosphere remains calm. And unlike last year, No organized program or stage setup was prepared for the rally. Mai?
Thank you, Andrea Salve, reporting to us from Commonwealth Avenue.
Amid the gloomy weather, there is no stopping for various groups and organizations to rally their cause ahead of President Bongbong Marcos' State of the Nation address. Paulo Barcelon is live from Mendiola, Manila, and he's joining us for the updates. Paulo, go ahead.
Well, Gerg, good afternoon. It's a calm afternoon so far around the two main protest spots here in the nation's capital. As earlier this morning, around 300 rallyists from the Kilusan para sa Pambansang Demokrasya troop to Mendiola for a short program demanding that the president include different concerns in his State of the Nation address. Those concerns are stabilizing the prices of different goods in the market and, of course, addressing hunger and wage concerns. Security remains tight outside the Mendiola Peace Arch in anticipation of other protest actions that might be held in light of President Marcos' State of the Nation address. Since midnight, barricades have been set up outside Mendiola to keep protesters away from the Malacanang Palace gates. A force of the Manila Police District Civil Disturbance Unit has also been deployed to try and secure the situation. MPD spokesperson Police Major Philippine says around 2,000 of its police personnel have also been deployed to augment cops in Quezon City, and so far the afternoon remains peaceful as the protesters, after their short program left for Quezon City to join the other anti-Marcos protesters at Commonwealth Avenue. George?
Well, thank you, Paulo Barcelon, reporting live from Mendiola, Manila. We're taking another break. More stories on PBBM's fourth SONA when Newsfeed at noon returns. We are still on SONA 2025, the nation's agenda. Bilyonaryo News Channel's coverage of President Bongbong Marcos' State of the Nation address. Still with us, our political analyst Froilan Canilong and international law expert Ivcar Cruz Ferrer. Well, Prof, an attorney, what do you expect to hear from the president later?
Actually, should I begin?
Go ahead, attorney.
Ako, I expect later for him to touch on a number of foreign policy issues, as well as the upcoming, issues on the armed conflict front ng Philippines with the BARM election upcoming in October.
That's important,
yes,
right?
what's going to happen, and also whether it is still feasible within his term to conclude the final peace agreement with the CPP, NPA, and the FP. Because it's really crucial at this point that we have something tangible in that particular aspect. And I dare say that hopefully the president will really push. This is the year to push all his foreign policy agendas. Ito na as Professor Froilan has mentioned earlier, if we don't make use of this year, it would be more difficult moving towards the next national elections kasi iba na yung mindset and focus ng ating mga politicians.
Prof.
Well, for me, I think he will be giving us more people-centered initiatives and programs because I think this is really what the people are waiting for. I mean, how you curve down the inflation, how you increase employment, how you try to stabilize the currency, among others. And I believe ito yung kakailanganin talaga natin. Siyempre, asahan pa rin natin dito yung mga ibabang niyang programa na pinagmamalaki like digitalization, to cut down on the digital divide, internet connectivity. Siyempre, asahan din natin yung flood control program na sana matugunan natin yung ating disaster resiliency issues dito sa ating bansa. And I think less on politics kasi normally, yung mga issues about impeachment, ICC, these are divisive issues eh. So, hindi talaga to ina-amplify normally sa isang SONA because here you are trying to report to the people. What were your accomplishments for the past year and how to move or navigate forward in the coming year? And I hope the President will really give us a good report later. It's really exciting to find out kung ano yung sasabihin niya sa atin. And sana he should I hope the tone is something na medyo inclusive talaga. And at the same time, talagang marali niya yung tao na despite and in spite of what we're facing right now, he can still and he has the power to move things forward for us.
Prof, how crucial is this SONA for President Marcos sa pag-shape ng final stretch ng kanyang presidency? And we're coming into this in the midst of a calamity and also yung paulit-ulit na controversies.
Well, very, very important to, no? Especially that the Senate and the Congress is there, no? Para suportahan yung kanyang legislative agenda. This is the opportune time for him to call on the Congress to lay down yung kanyang mga priority bills measures, no? And I hope that many of these priority bills will be in line really with improving the lives of majority of Filipinos. And sana yung marinig natin. And yung essence of leadership, accountability, and how he could really make this country better, especially moving into the next 3 years, yun yung mga naisana natin. And I hope that it will be truthful and factual. Because sometimes kasi, di ba, minsan naririnig natin sa SONA, puro mga sugar coats, sinasabi ng iba. Pero sana naka-angkla pa rin doon sa realidad.
Of course, we will not miss the chance to ask both of you kung papaano nyo ba i-rate yung first 3 years ng Pangulong Bongbong Marcos and his administration. So, attorney first.
Okay. For me, I'll rate him based on areas of foreign policy, international law, like how he handled things. I would give him an 8. Because really there's a clear departure as to our stance when it comes to the West Philippine Sea issue, the way this administration has upheld international law and pushing for it, realizing that we are indeed part of a global community. You cannot limit it to domestic law. And I agree also that moving forward, dapat ang focus is really more on bringing the people together, less on the divisive issues, because ang hirap like sayang yung natitirang like at least 2 solid years before the election na talagang ma-push natin our country to the level that we wanted to go.
Let's go to Professor Froilan. How would you rate the performance of the Marcos administration?
Well, I think I've mentioned this in many other interviews so far, and I'm not changing with my stance on this. I still give him a 6. Kumbaga sa isang estudyante na sa midterms, hindi natin sinasabi na failure or pasang-awa pa. Because you see, may mga estudyante na towards the latter part, saka sila nagka-catch up, and they still get a good mark. So I hope that the President will utilize his time, like what Attorney mentioned, to really turn things around. He still has enough time, and like I said, he has the resources. He has the backing up of a group of a good majority number in the Congress. He has all this. He has all these departments under him, and kaya niyang gawin ito for as long as talagang yung focus, the determination, and the willpower to lead will always be there. I think it will be something good for us. And sabi nga natin, hindi natin nanaisin kailanman na yung ating gobyerno ay bumagsak, because wherever the President goes, we go with him. And we always want the best for the country and for the government.
Marami pang kailangan gawin. This is time to play catch-up.
Yes, definitely. Now is really the opportune time to do that.
All right, maraming salamat. Thank you for joining us today. Our guest, political analyst, Professor Froilan Calilung, and international law expert, attorney Ivcar Cruz Peret. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much.
For having us.
And stay tuned to the Bilyonaryo News Channel for our special coverage of President Bongbong Marcos' SONA later. I'm Mai Rodriguez.
And I'm Gerg Cahiles. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.